strange technical difficulties tonight because of me, but I am blessed, fortunate, and all that good stuff to have as my guest this evening, Mr. Claver. Mr. Claver is a radio personality, and he and I have somehow missed meeting each other for about 35 years.
About that long, man.
It took me 32 years to get together with my wife. I met her in '82, but we didn't get married until last year.
Sometimes good things take time.
And now I find out you're Cleveland Nisby's son.
That's right.
I met your dad in 1980, spring of 1980, through Bill Oliver.
With Bill Oliver.
Now I'm just now meeting you personally. Nice to meet you, man.
My brother.
Good to meet you.
Homeboy almost.
Now we're gonna talk some politics for about a little while. And we started talking next door on the Trailer Park Show about you're in town to interview James Dickey.
Correct.
I had sent you a video. I'll probably do a later show and have you call in. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
The Mob for 21,
Right.
Which is about abortion practices and the disproportionate impact on the black community.
Right.
I want to talk some conservative and Republican politics with you.
Sure.
First of all, I've never met you until today. And then I learned that you and I both came up in Democratic politics pretty much.
Pretty much.
Both in Jefferson County.
That's right.
Both shared, we had one common mentor, two common mentors, your dad and Bill Oliver.
Correct.
Because I worked with both of them. I worked with Bill's Plymouth Church. And I worked with him on Mickey Leland's campaign, Jack Brooks' campaign.
I used to be a member.
Jack Brooks'
I used to be a
campaign.
member of Plymouth.
Plymouth Church?
That's right.
Oh, so you know Mama Lou, Dennis Graham, Loretta, all that good stuff, right?
Loretta, I mean, I remember when Andrew Young came through.
Yeah,
and preached a
Andy.
sermon. Yeah, Andy Young came through. Yeah, and he came over to our house to eat and stuff. It was great, man.
Yeah, okay. Okay, now that we got that out the way. You're in town,
We connected. We were always a few degrees away from each other, but we have finally connected. And look where we are in the same place, ideologically, the whole 9 yards.
It's a complete 180. We're 180 degrees from where we were, so to speak, 30, 35, 40 years ago. But we still end up right next to each other,
That's right.
kind of thinking the same way. Now I heard of your radio Raising Elephants last couple of months ago. I hadn't heard of them. And I thought, Raising Elephants? I guess they're Republicans.
No, we're not raising jackasses. The Democratic Party mascot. That's why it's called all Democrats are jackasses. I want you to know that. Just like the UT are the Longhorns. That's their mascot. A&M is the Aggies. In 1828, the Democratic Party officially adopted the jackass. No, the jackass. It is a jackass. It's not a donkey. It's not a mule. It's not a burro. The reason they called it's a jackass is because Andrew Jackson's opponent and his political opponents called him a jackass. And he liked it so much, they adopted it. And unless the party somehow has made some official resolution, a declaration that they've changed it from the jackass to the donkey, in my view, the official mascot of the Democratic Party of the United States is the jackass, and that's what they act like, a bunch of jackasses. Okay?
Okay.
I'll be clear.
Now, so you and I start out. We start out kind of working on the other side. I guess through the other side.
Well, it was all that was there for us.
Yeah.
At that time, there was only Democrats. There was really no Republicans. Not of real power and strength, right?
But now I don't know about you, but I catch hell because I'm conservative, for real.
No,
I get on Facebook and
I used to.
People call me names.
I used to. Okay.
Family members mad at me.
It used to be that way, but now it's kind of like Mad Dog Mattis when he was asked the question, "What keeps you up at night?" Man, nothing keeps me up. I keep other people up at night. Okay. Nobody gives me any problems. I give them problems. They shudder when I walk into the room. They shut up when I walk into the room. Okay, they start trembling when RagingElephantsRadio.com walks into the room. That script has been flipped.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We set them straight.
Well, tell me this, Claver. And you started out on the Democratic side working as did I. Did you get some pushback when you made the switch, a change, or when you clarified your position? How would you
Even in
describe
family.
that? How would you describe that?
Anticipated. Anticipated. The black race in America is the only race, the only demographic that defines itself, or part of its racial identity is tied to political party affiliation. Whites don't do that. Hispanics don't do that. Asians don't do that. Just blacks. Somehow, if you're not a Democrat, you're a traitor. You're an Uncle Tom. You're a fetch and, step and fetch.
They call y'all all kind of things.
All kind of names because you're not a Democrat. Those are people that are they're enslaved. They're enslaved psychologically. They're enslaved sociologically. That's enslavement. My answer to them is, no, I'm not an Uncle Tom. I'm not a sellout. I'm not, I'm not a handkerchief head. I'm none of those things. Okay? What I am is a free Texan. And I have the right to decide what political party I wish to associate with,
now,
and what political ideology I wish to subscribe to.
Now, what I have on my Facebook page, I'm a free black American, because that's what I am.
And I can choose what church I want to go to. I can choose who I wish to marry. I can choose where I want to work. I can choose which political ideology I believe in. I can choose whatever religion I want. I choose Jesus Christ because he chose me, okay? And I can choose whatever political party. And when I look at my belief system, when I look at Genesis 1:1 to Revelation 22:21, all those who want to call me names, I ask them, what do you believe in? What, you call yourself a Christian. You're in church every day. But you're linking yourself with a party that says God's word is some sort of classic work of fiction. You're in a party that's absolutely anti-Bible, anti-church, anti-Jesus, therefore anti-Christ. They're the body of the Antichrist. You're in church, you're sitting there saying hallelujah, you're holding up your hands every day, you're getting your dance praise on every Sunday, and you're voting for a party that's literally killing your race.
Literally.
Literally killing your race.
I read something, I think I sent you the movie, My Alpha 21.
Yep. It's been around for a while.
I posted on my Facebook for the whole wide world to read. And I had a good friend of mine, basically a brother, we played basketball, baseball growing up. I played baseball against him, played basketball with him, but he said he didn't see the conspiracy. And I read, I did some reading today of an opposing point of view that said, well, no, those are just fetuses that are being aborted. They aren't people.
Oh, have you read the Democratic Party platform? The Democratic Party platform don't even call them fetuses. The Democratic Party platform of Texas says the product of sperm, whatever they said, penetrating an egg or whatever. They didn't call it a fetus, they called it the product.
All I know is,
and said that product has no rights.
Every person walking around has 46 chromosomes, 23 from a man, 23 from a woman. All of us.
And you can't change it. Sex reassignment surgery doesn't change your XX or your XY. Hormone treatment can't change XX or XY. You're either XX or you're XY. Your genitalia doesn't determine your sex or your gender. You're either XX or XY. That determines your sex or gender.
Well, to me, as far as I'm concerned, they're completely twisted, thinking they can choose their sex.
Yeah.
And I have fun sometimes. Sometimes on Facebook, I just entertain myself. I say, well, today I identify as the Empire State Building. I want everybody to pay me rent. It's that crazy. If you were to identify, I can go and identify as an oak tree. Somebody come out and trim these leaves. I mean, it's insane. And the extent to which, and
that's why we're not Democrats anymore.
Intensity to which people buy into this mess.
I call it neo-morality, new morality. And I wasn't the first one. Pastor Stephen Broden out of Dallas was the first I really heard use that term, neo-morality, new morality. And within that new morality is the homosexual movement, but it's more than that, right? So, the new morality, it's okay to have abortion, and the new morality is okay to have children out of wedlock, the new morality is, gender identity, that's the new morality. The new morality is you can't speak in terms of liberty. You can't speak in terms of conservatism. You can't speak in terms of constrained government or reduced taxation or in favor of free enterprise, capitalism, and entrepreneurship because it's not moral. The new morality is that you worship trees. You worship the climate.
Doorknobs.
Yeah, you can't drink certain things, you can't eat certain things, you can't because it's going to harm the trees, it's going to harm the environment. You got to have grass planted on your
You can have
roof.
you can have a God of your understanding. It's like God is like it's like going to Burger King. You can order your own God.
Yeah, cafeteria Christians.
It makes you God.
Yeah, cafeteria Christians, right?
If you decide who God is, it makes you God.
Yeah, you pick and choose what you want to believe in there and what you want to follow.
But what really concerns me is the extent to which and the intensity with which many people of African descent embrace that insanity.
I think it's correct.
Contrary to everything you've been taught, and contrary to common sense.
Well, I mean, I think that when issues of morality are literally put to the people via ballot, what I've seen from the black community is a consistent demonstration, a consistent exercise of standing up for the traditional morality. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, I'm going to give you a few examples. All right, let's take the homosexual movement, for example, and let's take the situation of homosexual quote-unquote marriage, right, which doesn't exist. There's no such thing as that, right? But how about Proposition 8 out in California that said, they were going to ban homosexual marriage out there in California? Mm-hmm. Well, the only reason it passed is because 70% of blacks voted for Judeo-Christian, biblically defined marriage. Mm-hmm. In every place it has been placed on the ballot.
It's lost.
In deep blue states, it has lost, and the black community would always come out heavily in favor of biblically defined marriage and against homosexual quote-unquote marriage, right? The only place where it was even close was in Maryland, which has a high black population, deeply blue, but there was a gender divide. Black men were heavily in favor of Judeo-Christian marriage, okay? Mm-hmm. Black women were 50-50, right? And so when you look at a lot of polling, exit polling from the 2016 election, you saw this big gender gap from black men and black women. Black men, in my view, are the prime target for conservatives. Young black men are the prime target for conservatives to go out and recruit and add to the voting base. Add to the voting base, right. Because from all the exit polling that we've seen that the ones who appear to be the most receptive to our pitch, if we would just pitch them, are black men. Mm-hmm. If you look at the exit polling. But wherever neo-morality versus Judeo-Christian ethics are put on the ballot, with no exception, blacks have always come out in favor of Judeo-Christian ethics.
Well, that's somewhat of a relief.
Right, but the problem is they don't vote those values, and that's what gets us so infuriated.
Well, I think that
otherwise, like for instance, if you're voting 61-39 in Houston against the HERO ordinance, and that means it's not just white people, okay? That means it's everybody, black folks, white folks, brown folks, yellow folks. If you're beating back the bathroom ordinance in Houston 61-39, that means black folks are voting their values, right?
That's what HERO went down to?
61-39. It was a crushing. They beat it into a polio, okay? 61-39, okay? All the tyranny that Anise Parker, the subpoenas that were issued for sermons of pastors, the egregious tyranny that was enacted by Anise Parker as mayor, just awful stuff. It was crushed. The church stood up. The people of Houston stood up. 61-39. We don't want this. Mm-hmm. Men go into men's restrooms. Women go into women's restrooms. That's the way it should be. Now, here's the other thing. When it comes to those ballot initiatives like that, Remember, George Bush, the younger, W, he owes his second term to black Christian conservatives, where he won Ohio and Florida because they had they had marriage initiatives on the ballot. And black conservatives or black Christians went in and linked Bush with that marriage initiative and pull the lever against homosexual marriage and pull the lever for George Bush. He owes his second term to black voters who voted Republican. Now, most of the time, although they understand their Judeo-Christian ethics and they're in favor of it and they love the Lord Jesus, you still have that conflict within the black community of their racial identity and their allegiance to the party of death and destruction and theft, steal, kill, and destroy, John 10:10.8, Part A, the Democratic Party. That's what the Democratic Party is, John 10:10, Part A. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, right? That's what they are. So if you say you love the Lord Jesus Christ, if you say that you believe in Genesis 1:1 and Revelation 22:21, okay, cool. Then why would you vote for people who are diametrically opposed to those principles? And that would be any and every person pretty much, without exception, on the Democratic side of the ballot.
So it's kind of like there's a disconnect.
There's a disconnect, some sort of split personality, schizophrenia. What is it? What is it, right? They are not in favor of abortion. Then why would you continue to vote for members of the Congressional Black Caucus? Why would you continue to vote for Sheila Jackson Lee? Why would you continue to vote for Eddie Bernice Johnson here in Texas? Why would you do that? You're against abortion. Then why would you continue to vote for Symphonia Thompson? Why would you continue to vote for Royce West, right? They're black. That's because they're black. Why would you vote for Barack Obama?
I think many vote for black candidates simply because they're black.
Black and Democrat.
Yeah.
Now, they may have a hard time with a black and a Republican, okay?
And
Right.
that's the challenge we face. How do we change that up in your opinion?
Messaging. Like I said on the Trailer Park Show, I believe, look, I'm in communications. I make my money in communications. I own a digital media company, okay? My degree is in communications. All my life, as a child, I was a communicator. I recited the Gettysburg Address when I was 5 years old at church, right? All my life, I've been a communicator. I believe in communications. Any political movement, any political structure has to have a rock-solid communications plan. If you don't want to take something by force, you better be able to do it by language. You better be able to communicate it. And you better get that message, that communication to as many people as possible. And that's why you have mass media communications.
So we're not messaging.
We're not messaging.
We're not messaging.
We're not spending the capital, which really doesn't take a lot of money these days, to penetrate what I call the blue force field. There seems to be this force field around communities of color where the message of liberty cannot penetrate. But the weapons are there to penetrate the blue force field, like they call it the blue wall, right? I call it the blue force field in these communities of color in urban areas where the messaging of liberty, of entrepreneurship, of the protection of Judeo-Christian ethics, protecting the spiritual integrity of the land is not getting through. And it's up to us. The Lord didn't say, wait for them to come to you. He said, you go to them, right? Okay, but in these days, it's a whole lot easier. Raise a little capital, do some digital marketing, get the message in there. And what we've learned through empirical study, through actual surveys, is that as liberty-driven Texans, liberty-driven African Texans, African Americans, we don't have to water down our positions to be effective in persuading conservatives of color, to Christians of color, to truly vote their values. There needs to be a more
we need to double down on what we're doing.
Quadruple down. To me, it is the most paramount issue facing what would be called the conservative movement or the GOP. The changing demographics and their inability to persuade conservatives or ultra-conservatives or liberty-driven conservatives of color to vote what they believe in. Now, I believe that of all the people, who would have ever thought that the person I believe that has helped to take a bit of that wall down, a chunk of that wall down has been Trump.
Donald Trump.
Just by simply saying, vote for me, what the hell do you have to lose?
Right. But now some people got mad. They got upset about that. And I think, and I say it on Facebook all the time, I think that by and large, and I just go ahead and say it, that many African Americans are just brainwashed. They've just heard something over and over and over so much that they believe it.
It was intentional. And the left has been at this for a long time. And you have to remember.
And we, on the Republican or conservative side of the house, we haven't done very well at all for half a century.
Well, that's because of neglect.
And it's, yeah.
It was just straight up neglect. They didn't think they needed the black vote, or they didn't think that blacks thought like they do. But the evidence shows that they're wrong. They think just like we do. We're black folks, and most of the black folks that we're gonna meet, if we were to walk across Northwest Avenue right now and talk to them, would agree. I've done polling in East Austin. I've gone door to door, and I have done polling on issues. People came to the door with Obama gear on. They still had Obama yard signs up in their yard in East Austin off of 51st and MLK. I went over there. I know what I'm talking about in Texas, and I know what I'm talking about Austin and Travis County and I know. I've been on the ground, okay? And I've done the surveys, door to door, trained white people to go, because there was no black people, white people to go into middle class, black neighborhoods, door to door, and survey them on their thoughts, their beliefs, on major issues. National defense, border security, education, abortion, welfare, socialism, all those issues. 70 to 80% of, 73, I want you to hear me, 73% of the people that we surveyed in East Austin graded out to be conservative or strong conservative. These people, I specifically remember people coming to the door with their morning coffee and an Obama t-shirt on. And I give them the 10 questions, and then we were able to give them points based on how they answered the questions. And then we were able to build a matrix or a spectrum to find out where they fell along the political line, the political spectrum, based on their grade, right? In East Austin, I'm talking about Dwana Duke's country. I'm talking about Eddie Rodriguez country. I'm talking about Kurt Watson country, right? Montopolis, 73% of blacks, and the white ones we just set aside,
right?
Okay, 73% graded out to be conservative to strong conservative, anti-abortion, anti-welfare state, anti-border invasion.
So something happens when you go in the booth.
Right. It's D. Okay? Or city council elections, black one, or whoever they say. Right? So it's our fault. Right? It's our fault. And it's the Republican Party's fault on a national basis, state basis, and county basis. If you want to change, if you want to see law enforcement change, I beg your pardon, guys. I'm so sorry. I apologize. Came off. Let's see if we can stay on. If you want to change police chiefs aren't elected. Police chiefs apply for the job, and they get appointed by mayors. Sheriffs are political officers. Yeah, they're political officers. Constables here in Texas, they're political officers. The rank and file isn't, but when you see police chiefs and sheriffs and constables on the south steps of the Capitol saying we don't want the bathroom bill, that it's going to make our citizens unsafe, or when they say we're against sanctuary cities because it's going to make our cities unsafe, and we know that's that's just total illogical. It's unreasonable. It's just stupid, right? It's just stupid, right? So why are they saying that? They're political. It's their jobs. They have to. If they want to keep their job, and the mayor's position is we want to be sanctuary city, or for a sheriff or a constable, in order for them to get elected, they have to say, I'm for sanctuary cities. They want to win. That's what they do. All right, so if you want to change that, if you're tired of seeing a police chief say, I'm going to be a lawbreaker, I'm not going to enforce the law, I'm going to let invaders come in here and plunder the treasury of the state. You know, I mean, if you got over 300,000 people crossing your border every year, that's an invasion. What's the purpose of invasion? Conquest. That's the purpose of invasion, conquest. To take control of your economy, your governance, and your culture. Conquest. And when you got 300,000 at the height of the 2016 invasion surge, remember the dirty diaper invasion in 24, all them babies coming across and everything? 300 to 4. At one point, State Senator Bob Hall came on RagingElePhantsRadio.com and said they were apprehending 1,000 a day, 7,000 plus per week. Extrapolate that out. That's 350,000 people per year that they're apprehending. That doesn't count the ones that they don't catch.
That they're not catching.
That they're not catching, all right? They're catching 350,000, a third of 1 million people per year, okay, at the height of the Iraqi surge under George W. Bush. There were only 170,000 U.S. troops on the ground. At the height of the Afghanistan surge in the Obama administration, there were only 100,000 troops on the ground in Afghanistan. And you got over 300,000 people, 350,000 people crossing just the border of Texas. Never mind New Mexico, Arizona, and California. I don't care about them anyway. I care about the future independent Republic of Texas, all right? And you got 350,000? And you got police chiefs saying, oh no. Well, if you want to change that, you got to change the people who are hiring them. That's the mayors. And that means you got to win city elections. And in Texas, if you're going to win city elections, that means you got to get the black and brown vote. And you got to find some way to persuade them to vote their values and get these anti-Christians in blue suits, badges, and guns, get them out of office. Get these sheriffs out of office. Get these constables out of office. Because when they're saying we want sanctuary cities, when they're saying we want open borders, who gets hurt the most? The black community. The black community gets hurt the most. And when you go and you survey citizens in the black community like I have, right there in East Austin, right here in East Austin, where we are right now, they understand that. When we were growing up, our summer job was what? Cutting them lawns.
Cutting grass, picking berries.
Right? That's at McDonald's. That was your first job. We knew. Right about midterms, I'm talking about high school now.
Yeah.
Midterms, spring semester, right? We knew right then it was about time to start putting in applications.
Putting in applications,
right?
For your summer
job.
Get that summer job.
And I don't know about you, but even when I was in high school, if I wasn't playing on an athletic team, all right? So I didn't play basketball. I played football and baseball, right? So if I wasn't playing football or I wasn't playing basketball, I was in a non-sports season, 3 o'clock when the bell rung, I was headed to my after-school job.
Right.
And then it was a janitor at a pharmacy or something. I had how many different part-time jobs you had as a kid, right? That's where we learned our work ethic. And still have to come home and bust them books, do that homework, and better not come home with anything less than a B. You're going to be an athlete, you're going to be a scholar, you're going to have work ethic, you're going to work your ass off, you're going to understand what sweat equity is. That's where it begins. I think it's an insult when you got these plutocrats sitting up there saying, oh, these undocumented immigrants, they're invaders and they're criminals, okay? These undocumented immigrants, they're doing the jobs that Americans won't do. Will you please stop insulting Texans? Forget about it. Maybe in Illinois they don't want to do the jobs. Will you please stop insulting Texans? Will you please stop insulting black Texans? You're going to tell me black Texans or Texans, period, regardless of their skin pigmentation or hair texture or eye color, they can't hang sheetrock? They can't do roofing? They can't do cement finishing? You mean to tell me they don't want to do plumbing? They don't want to do painting? Wait a minute, let me get this right. You're going to tell me if down in the RGV, the Rio Grande Valley, they can't find anybody to pick the crops, and then black folks find out that they're paying at least a living wage down there, that they won't get down there for their job? Stop insulting us as if we're some sort of lazy bums. Stop insulting black people. Stop insulting black Texans. And every time you had ICE in previous years do a raid on
a poultry factory or something. The next day, there's a line of people trying to get those jobs. All right? Stop insulting us. All right? Stop sending our children to penitentiaries to support the penitentiary industrial complex. Stop failing our children in school by failing them and sending them directly to
Put them in the
penitentiary.
pipeline.
Put them in the pipeline. Put them in the pipeline. You got 40% dropout rates on average in Texas urban areas. HISD, for all the money that is spent on education. People may not know, over 50% of the Texas state, 52% of the Texas state budget goes into education. Into education. That's over, the Texas budget is $100 billion plus per year. They do it every 2 years. It's $200 billion. Every budget that they do is 2 years. That's $220 billion worth of budget every 2 years. So you're looking at about $110 billion every year.
In education.
No, you're looking at about more like $56 billion annual, and you're looking at about 110 billion every 2 years, every budget, right?
Around that.
Around that point. And the biggest driver of debt in Texas is local debt, all right? People think Texas is just, this kind of like, it's not like the United States where it's, over, close to 100% of GDP is debt, right? Well, the debt has almost reached 100% of GDP. Okay, well, in Texas, the biggest driver of debt is local governance. Texas, in an economy of $1.7 trillion, is now approaching $400 billion in debt, in local debt. And that is driven primarily by independent school district bond issues, right? Multi-billion-dollar bond issues that are being passed primarily for these, these athletic facilities, these football stadiums. I'm as big a fan of football as anybody else, but you're talking about passing a bond issue, let's say in KDISD. Okay, so the bond is about $700 million. $60 million of that is for a stadium. Okay? And the kids are not graduating from school. They're using these nationally standardized, these national standards in which teachers are teaching to the test. The children aren't learning. They're failing when they get out into the employment force.
Because they're not prepared.
They're not prepared. And you got nearly half of them not even making it to 12th grade. They're not even making it across the stage. And who controls the educational system? Those Democrats.
The hard part, the challenging part that I see is my wife, she's the deputy director at Gary Job Corps Center. And they have kids in there from 16 to 24. And she says to me, more than on one occasion, she says, there are kids that come in here that can't read past the 4th grade level.
That's right. It's pretty bad. And I have an RER contributor, Alice Linehan, and others that focus on what we call big education, big ed. And the things that are coming down the pike aren't going to make things any better. This so-called special ed school choice legislation, the special session, very bad legislation. And I learned this from somebody else. I learned this from Alice Linehan. There's good school choice, there's bad school choice. And this bill that they have underneath the pink dome right now, it's bad school choice. Parents and voters don't know the difference between the good school choice and the bad school choice, Another reason for RER, RagingLoversRadio.com. A lot of voters in this state, especially if they participate in the primary elections, believe fallaciously that they are well-informed, that they are well-informed voters. And my experience says that they are not. That most of the voters of the GOP conservative base that vote in those primaries, 4 million last time, 8 million last time around the GOP primary, it increased by 100% over its average, the GOP primary in 2016. It usually averaged about 4 million. Some around was like 8 million, right? So most of them believe that they're educated, that they're informed. I believe it's the opposite. I believe that most voters walking into that booth have no idea who they're voting for or why. Or who or what.
That's really out of the question. So we have conservatives or the RPT or Republicans, however you want to call it, there's a communication and education deficit that we're trying to make up.
Politically.
But yeah, politically. Do you think, are you optimistic that things may improve with the new chair
Yeah.
for the state?
I'm very optimistic.
How so and why so?
What I've seen from James Dickey and with the extensive interview that I conducted just last evening with the new chair of the Republican Party of Texas, RPT. He's been there for 9 weeks. It is going to be a marked difference from previous administrations. There are many who liked the chairman role the job that Munisteri did. There is no question that came financially, Munisteri was spectacular. When it came to technical execution, Munisteri, fantastic, right? But I believe James Dickey can bring that technical execution to the job, but he's going to be more of an advocate for the platform. And that's going to be a huge, huge difference. Just that alone. I believe that he's media savvy, and I believe that he knows how to exploit the bully pulpit of the Texas GOP chair. I believe that he's a good communicator. I know that he's the product of the Texas Liberty Movement. He was the founder of the Central Texas Republican Assembly.
CTRA.
He was a co-founder of the largest Tea Party in the United States of America, the Dallas Tea Party. He's one of us. It was just a phenomenal, remarkable, divine his election back there in June. And at the deciding vote for him to win and have this sea change.
Who'd you say cast that vote?
Melanie Wilcox Flowers. You can find her on Facebook. She's a member of the SRAC, obviously. Black, female, Republican. And she was pretty much, up to that time, considered pretty much to be in the Mechler camp. So everybody thought that she was going to go with Mechler's hand-picked successor, Rick Figueroa. And when I spoke to her after that vote was taken, she said, I had to vote my district, and she's SD 13 out of Houston, right? That's Sheila Jackson Lee's country, right?
Yeah.
And she said, I had to vote my district, and my district made it very clear, and that means her county, her precinct chairs, her executive committee bosses out of Harris County. That's her bosses, the executive committee, that's her bosses, right? So she said, they made it very clear. That's those black precinct chairs in Houston in SD 13. No, we want Dickey. We don't know this guy Figueroa. The black precinct chairs in Houston decidedly went with the Liberty the Liberty Movement candidate James Dickey.
I think during the campaign period, did they have a candidate for him in
There's
Houston?
several.
I think
Several. It began literally days after Mechler announced his resignation, and it took effect.
Because I know there was one up in Dallas Fort Worth area.
There was Houston.
I know there was one here in
and there was one in
Round Rock.
There was one in San Antonio, and there was one that I recorded, and it's on YouTube on the Raging Olympus on the RER video. We call it RER video. The RER YouTube video channel of their forum in Houston, and in which Rick Figueroa admitted that he had previously donated to Democrats and said that he would be proud to do it again. And the reason he said is, oh, well, the woman was the daughter of his Little League coach or something. What? I love you, baby, but you're a Democrat. I love you. I love your dad. I don't care if it was a family member. I don't care if it was my mother went on the ballot as a Democrat. She would not get my vote, ever. It really left a cloud in the air, question in the air of if Rick Figueroa had been elected chairman, would he give to a Democrat as chairman of the Republican Party of Texas? We put that video out there, and from all indications, I cut that up. I took that one portion, and we distributed that video On the day, the morning of the vote, as the SREC members are waking up and getting ready to go to the hotel and vote for who the new chairman was.
I went to that meeting.
Huh? You were there?
Yeah, I was there.
And that morning when they woke up, in their inboxes was that video of Rick Figueroa saying, I gave to a Democrat, I'm proud of it, and I'd do it again. And he went down. He went down. And from all accounts, there were those that said that video either potentially changed their vote or solidified their decision to vote for Dickey. Because Figueroa, nobody didn't know who this guy was. Where did he come from? But we knew, and we know James Dickey. Why? Because he's been around. He's been there for a while. He's been in the fight for a long time. He's been on the battlefront for a long time. He's been at the tip of the spear for a long time. He's been one of us for a long time, right?
Now, I was...
It's going to be a profound change. It's going to be a marked, distinct change.
You see, back in June, I think I read a Raging Elephant's email string that you had out. There was an email string about outreach. I think it was. I think it was a Waterboy reference in there or something.
Yeah, that's something that we do, man. I've had people are begging me, couple of people are begging me to have a place on our website, call it something like the Nickname Hall of Fame, because we got nicknames for everybody, right? So, like, why do we call State Representative Charlie Guerin Charlie Cookie Monster Guerin? Why do we do that? Well, there needs to be a reason. We need to put that. Why do we call him the Cookie Monster? Why do we call State Representative Todd Hunter Todd the Executioner Hunter? Why do we do that, right?
You call them names.
Yeah, we got all these nicknames, right? So Waterboy was Mechler's nickname.
So what do we do to get this part expanded?
The messaging.
Messaging?
Right, the messaging. You have to, that's one of the grievances that we've had for a long time, right? We've gotten lip service out of the RPT, but they don't put their money where their mouth is, right? They don't staff it up like they're supposed to, right? They don't put together a battle plan like they should. If they would just do what they say, if you don't reap, you're not going to sow. And there's no reaping going on. They're not doing any planning. It's not going to be a harvest.
I believe the fundraising is probably improving from what, because Dickey's running around like chicken with his head cut off. He's here, there, and everywhere. And
fundraising has picked up.
Yeah, he seemed to be very...
From this interview yesterday, I'll give everybody a preview. The small donors, the real people, are starting to give. I mean, that day after the election was taken, we were out in the lobby. You know, there were people in that lobby that said that day that they hadn't given to the Republican Party of Texas in years, if not decades, and because of the election of James Dickey, that was going to change. They were going to start donating to the party again, simply because of his election. We're talking about the small donors, 1,000 less, right? Wow.
So that's the grassroots.
The grassroots, the real people, man. Hardworking, working class. People want to call the Republican Party the party of the rich. There ain't enough rich people in this world or in this state or in this nation to elect somebody president. Not enough rich people. They call them the 1%ers. 1% of the people can't win an election. It's regular working folks that are making decisions about what's going to make their lives better.
Now, in the last presidential election, I think it was about probably 6 months before the election, I told my wife Trump was going to win. And I'll tell you why. And I'll share with you why. I was at a gas station pumping gas, and there was a lady came up, had a bunch of kids in the car, and I had these patriotic, conservative reading books I had. I said, here, you might want your kids to check this book out. And she looked at it and said, oh, I don't talk politics with people at all. I don't talk politics. And when she asked me who I worked for, and I told her at that time I was working for, and I still am working as an outreach director for the Travis County Republican Party, I gave her my card. Boy, she opened up it's like I had a new best friend. And I came home and I told my wife, I said, it's going to be some people that come out and vote for Trump who probably never voted before.
That's what happened in Jefferson County.
I said, they're going to come out, they're going to come out like roaches in the dark.
Jefferson County, 2016, the first time, probably since Reconstruction, that a Republican won Jefferson County. That is a county that's almost a chocolate county. All right? It's 30+% black.
Yeah,
and Donald Trump won Jefferson County. And I got reports from the polls. I've got very good contacts of poll workers. And in early voting,
you would be Nisby's son.
I got the contacts, all right? All right. I'm in the right business, journalism and media. But I had contacts in Beaumont that were working the polls that were saying black folks are coming in here and asking how to vote Republican. It just wasn't for Trump. They wanted to vote Republican, right? They'd never done it before. The reports were coming in. You know, voters will come in and they will ask, I need assistance. The voting machines can seem a little bit intimidating. I need help. And they would come and they would ask the volunteers, the poll workers, hey, you know, how do I want to vote this way? And a lot of them punched straight ticket Republican. Most of them were split ticket, but there were a lot of them, blacks, that voted, punched the straight ticket R button in Jefferson County, right? So this is a place that's deep blue. It has been deep blue.
Forever.
Right? The new chairman there, Dr. Garrett Peel, full disclosure, my personal surgeon, he's the new chairman there. And I went to the Lincoln Reagan Day dinner there right after his election. Oh, it was stunning. I've never seen any kind of Republican event ever in Jefferson County like that. That event rivaled what you would see with Harris County GOP, Travis County GOP. I mean, I walked in there and there was a string quintet. I walked in there, man, he had a buffet. I mean, dude, it had caviar in it. I mean, it was unbelievable. Beaumont, Texas, right? So I walk in there and the place is spectacular. And Dr. Beal, the new chairman, he says in front of everybody, I'm Tea Party. And everybody around him on his staff, these are people that I have known since the inception of the Tea Party. Delana Horn, Jeff Siddiqui. I mean, all these people that I've known and worked with in the Liberty Movement, that's who he surrounded himself with in Jefferson County, and they won.
Now in Jefferson County, I always figured the West End might be some prospecting out there, but I wasn't too sure about the rest of it.
No, I think I gotta tell you, Mike, I believe that the Liberty message is a winner in any community. If it's delivered properly, if it's delivered consistently, if it's just delivered. I believe the Liberty message is a winner. It will defeat the message of tyranny, socialism, collectivism. It will beat it every single time. If it is delivered correctly, if it is articulated correctly, if there's a debate going on that a true advocate of liberty, of life, liberty, and prosperity is standing up there and arguing with somebody for collectivism and all that, all that stuff, we'll beat their asses every single time. Every single time. If you have somebody who's astute, understands the principles, the factoids, if they understand that, they will beat them every single time. Every time. And I believe our message will resonate in any community. Any community, if it's got to be delivered.
I don't know that. So in your view, in what you say, in your view, it seems to me that the key is to have troops, representatives go into these communities.
Yeah, but you got to have. It's like fighting a war, right? So you need air power, but you got to have ground power. You got to have boots on the ground too, right? Air power, that's your electronic media, right? Like the billboards we put up here in East Austin that caused such a stir, right? And in Dallas, and in Dayton, Ohio, and in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and or Spartanburg, South Carolina, all these different places we put these billboards up that just caused the stink, right? Because black poverty pimps and Democrats had a hissy fit, oh no, the Republicans, they perceive us as Republicans, right? Although we were independent PAC, perceived us, they're infiltrating. They're in the perimeter.
Like you're out of bounds or something.
Yeah, they're in the perimeter. They're inside our perimeter. Republicans are inside the perimeter, right? Oh my goodness, in Dallas, here's this group that's put a billboard up at the Martin Luther King Jr. exit. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, or him MLK in Austin, Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican. No, they're in the perimeter. They're infiltrating. You have to deliver the message. You have to, and then once you use, for instance, television commercials, people think they're just expensive. They're not. If you know how to buy, where to buy, when to buy, right? They're not, right? Radio is more expensive than television. Terrestrial radio is more expensive than television, right? People would be shocked how little a billboard costs, depending on, where you're putting it, what community, what vicinity. Oh my goodness, digital. I mean, what you can do now as far as geo-target marketing with social media, it's magnificent.
It's a different world,
It's a different world. And penetrating that blue force field is so easy. But the forces that be, the people that want to be the leaders, the party officials, the elected representatives, okay? They got to put the cash up and they have to execute. They got to hire people that know what they're doing, right? That's what they have to do. And at a certain point, they better realize, before it's too late, that is their most paramount importance if they want to continue winning elections. The demographics are changing, and they're changing quickly, and there's no turning back. So in order to win elections in the future, the liberty-driven have to go out and find the liberty-driven that are hidden, and they're all in the community of color. Another fallacy when it comes to engagement and persuading people of faith to vote their values, which means they're going to vote Republican, is in the RPT, in the Republican platform, is that, you have to let them know their value.
Right.
Right? You have to let them know that. You have to let them know that they're wanted, that they're important, that that these issues are the best for you politically when it comes to governance, so that you can be all that you can be. So you can attain all that you can attain, right? And I'm thoroughly convinced that if you've got people in positions that are willing to go do that, to do the engagement, you're going to be successful. The problem is they're not doing it. If they would just put the effort in, I believe they would be successful. Just like the HERO Ordinance, just like George W. Bush, there's anecdotal evidence all around us, if we just open our eyes, that will show anyone who's a doubter that if you believe people of color will not vote for Republicans, or they will not vote for committed Christian conservatives or ultra-conservatives like myself, if you are the beliefs that people of color cannot relate to the message of liberty, you're wrong. You're wrong.
I have one quick question. I've got about 3 minutes, but this is for you. How would you, I want you to elaborate on how you went from being a Democrat to being what you call yourself now, an ultra-conservative. How did that evolution happen?
Two things happened. When I was living in D.C., one day I'm sitting at home on a weekend. This is around 96, I believe. And I'm flipping through the channels. I flipped to one of my favorite channels, C-SPAN. And on C-SPAN, they were televising the Libertarian Party National Convention. Libertarian Party. I mean, Studio One could hold the entire convention, National Convention, Libertarian Party, right? But what they were saying, although they'll never win an office, they'll never grow nationally. They've been around since, 74, 75, and they've never won an office. I mean, okay. So, but what they were saying, I'm like, whoa, that makes sense. That's rational. That's very reasonable. That's very logical. And I suddenly realized that I was responding to liberty. I was responding to freedom, free enterprise, entrepreneurship, self-reliance, the right of self-determination, the principles of the Constitution of the United States. the principles that we find in the Federalist Papers, or even more so, I think what's more important, the principles of the anti-Federalist Papers, which have come to pass. The warnings have come to pass. So just real quick, that began making me think about my belief system politically. And then on March 20th, to wrap it up, March 20th, 1997, in a parking garage in the corner of West Lane in Alabama, I had an encounter with the Lord Jesus Christ in which I was born again. And so once you are born again, you see everything through the eyes of a different lens, the Bible, the Holy Spirit, and I can't be a Democrat now.
Okay. Okay. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to have you on my show.
It's been an honor to be invited. Please do it
No,
again.
man, we're gonna do it again. I'm going to get you in on the call in one time.
That's right.
Because we got to do this video that I sent you.
The Mile for 21.
Mile for 21.
Yeah, I've seen it.
We got some other stuff to talk about. But thanks a whole lot, buddy. My
my brother.
brother. I don't know how I missed y'all these years. That's crazy. That's
My
crazy.
fellow
That's
liberty-driven
crazy. Let
brother.
me give you Bill's number.